This is the Sleep Historian. Each night we explore the echoes of the past, stories told slowly to calm the mind and ease you towards sleep. If you enjoy these quiet journeys through time, please like and subscribe, and let the next story begin. Before anything else, before maps or wagons or stories told by lamplight, there is distance. A wide continent holds its breath under open sky. In the early 19th century, the American frontier is not a line. It is a living edge of weather, water, and time. Drift over a pale river at dawn. Mist sits low. A lone cabin roof smokes softly. Somewhere inside, a kettle murmurs. These are not heroic moments. They are practical ones. Survival here is a quiet craft. Small skills, repeated calmly, kept people alive. The scene settles in the 1820s and 1830s, when trappers, scouts, and families move beyond older towns and into spaces that feel unfinished. The air smells of wood smoke and damp earth. Boots press into grass still silver with dew. A canvas pack creaks when a strap shifts. Many of the best methods are not written down. They are learned by watching hands at work. A knot tightened the right way. A fire laid with patience. A clean place to sleep. Tonight, we'll drift through those forgotten survival skills, one steady scene at a time. Time moves back a little further, to the long habit of traveling light. A small camp sits beside a creek, somewhere in the Appalachians in the late 1700s. The water speaks softly over stones. A tin cup cools in the current. A rifle leans against a log, its wood darkened by use. Frontiersmen like Daniel Boone moved with what they could carry and repair. Cloth, iron, leather, and powder had to last. A close-up lingers on fingers checking a seam, then retightening a strap. It's careful, almost tender. The camera shifts to a trading post in the early 1800s. Boards worn smooth where boots have passed for years. Inside, light from a small window falls across stacked goods. Flints, awls, needles, salt, and folded cloth. The air is dry with dust and tobacco. Out on the frontier, gear is not a hobby. It is a system. Items must do more than one job. A blanket is warmth, bedding, bandage, and shelter. A hand weighs a pouch of salt, then ties it shut again. Nothing is wasted. Outside, the land opens into long grass. Wind moves through it like slow water. A man walks with a steady pace, not rushing, watching the ground. He reads small signs, a broken stem, a fresh track, a place where dew has been brushed away. This is a skill that fades when roads arrive. Tracking is not only hunting, it is safety. Knowing what passed through, deer, horse, wolf, stranger, changes your next decision. Kneel close. 2 fingers touch the edge of a hoofprint. The dirt is still cool. It is recent. The scene turns to the idea of dry ground, one of the quietest rules. A camp is chosen with thought, not the prettiest spot, the safest one. A small rise above the waterline, a place where wind can be blocked but smoke can still drift away. In journals from long journeys, like Lewis and Clark's expedition of 1804 to 1806, campsites are chosen again and again for shelter, water, and visibility. A boot scuffs aside leaves to check the soil. Damp means cold later. Dry means rest. Now focus on hands preparing cordage. A strip of bark is twisted slowly into line. The motion is simple and rhythmic. It happens beside many fires, across many years. When rope breaks far from town, you don't curse the rope, you replace it. Inner bark, rawhide, even plant fibers can become strong enough for lashing poles or tying a pack. The skill is not glamorous, it is constant. A close-up catches the fibers tightening under the thumb. The line grows longer, steady and quiet, like a thought you can hold. A different craft appears in a small toolkit, the ability to sharpen without wasting steel. A whetstone is dampened with a little water. The blade slides across it in even strokes. The sound is soft, almost like brushing cloth. A sharp tool saves time, calories, and injury. A dull one forces you to push harder, slip, cut wrong. On the frontier, small mistakes become long problems. Watch the edge catch the light. Just a thin line, bright and clean. The blade is ready, and the day feels calmer. The camera drifts to a crude map scratched onto paper, then folded and unfolded until the creases shine. But the most reliable map is not ink, it is memory. Rivers bend a certain way. Ridgelines hold certain shapes. Smoke rises from certain valleys. Scouts learn to carry landmarks in the mind. Later, emigrant families on the Oregon Trail in the 1840s rely on the same habit. Notice, remember, confirm. A finger taps a point on the page, then points to the real horizon. Paper helps. The land decides. End this chapter in the quiet of evening. A small camp settles. Wind falls away. The fire is reduced to coals, not flames, to save wood and hide light. A pot lid rests slightly open to keep steam from soaking everything. These are skills built from repetition, not drama. The frontier does not reward speeches, it rewards routines. A close-up holds on a hand brushing ash from a cup rim, then setting it upside down to stay clean. The night is large, but the camp is orderly. That order is its own protection. Morning comes in pale layers. You are near the Missouri River, early in the day, the air cool and damp. A shelter is being planned before anything else. Not a cabin, not yet, just a roof and a windbreak. A lean-to rises from poles and bark, angled so rain slides away. The best builders think about where the wind will come from tonight, not where it came from yesterday. A hand presses the bark down and listens. A soft drumming means gaps. A quieter sound means tight seams. Comfort is built by small adjustments. Now move into the making of fire. Less a trick, more a discipline. The scene holds on tinder first. Dry grass, scraped bark, shavings curled thin. Then kindling. Pencil-thick sticks snapped clean, not bent. Finally, fuel. Heavier wood set nearby, ready before the spark arrives. On the frontier, a fire is often carried, not created. Coals are wrapped in punky wood or a tin, kept alive through travel. A close-up shows a coal, glowing like a quiet eye. It's small, but it can restart a whole evening. The camera shifts to wet weather. Rain sits in the leaves. The ground smells dark and sweet. Here, the forgotten skill is keeping things dry in the first place. Powder, matches, cloth, and food. Oilcloth, waxed fabric, and careful wrapping matter. Even bark can become a waterproof layer if laid the right way. A pack is organized so the most fragile items sit in the safest center. A hand opens a bundle to check it, then closes it again with calm precision. The motion is slow. There is no panic. It is simply what you do. Step closer to the fire's edge and notice the second skill, controlling heat. Too much flame wastes wood and calls attention. Too little makes damp clothing stay damp. Frontiersmen learn to cook on coals, not blaze. A small trench or stone ring holds the heat where it's needed. A pot hangs from a simple wooden hook, adjustable by notches. Soup simmers instead of boiling hard. The scent is plain, fat, grain, maybe a little onion if it exists. A close-up lingers on a spoon, testing the broth, then tapping once on the pot rim. Quiet approval. Now travel to a winter camp in the Rocky Mountains, the 1820s, the time of the mountain men. Snow lies in soft folds. The air stings the nose. Here, shelter means managing condensation. Warm breath can wet a blanket faster than weather can. Sleeping is done off the ground. Boughs, grass, hides, anything that traps air. A small fire may be placed outside the shelter opening to reflect heat inward. A hand shakes frost from a blanket edge. It falls like fine salt. The goal is not luxury, it is dryness. The scene shifts to making light without waste. A candle is precious, so a small grease lamp appears, a shallow dish, a wick of twisted cloth and rendered fat. The flame is modest and steady, enough to see a needle pass through leather. Frontier life leans on repair. A torn moccasin is fixed tonight, not next week. A ripped shirt becomes a draft in cold air if ignored. A close-up shows the needle tip catching lamplight, then slipping through fabric with a soft pull. The stitch line grows, neat and patient. Move to the sound of tools. An axe bites into wood with a dull, steady thud. The forgotten skill is not chopping harder, it is chopping smarter. Cutting at the right angle, choosing wood that splits clean, reading grain like a quiet message. A wedge and mallet can save energy. So can choosing dead-standing timber, dry, lighter, and ready to burn. Wet wood hisses and smokes, turning your night into a struggle. A hand taps a log with the axe head, listening. The sound is hollow and dry. Good wood, good heat. End the chapter with the calm act of breaking camp. The fire is scattered and cooled. A small trench is filled. Ash is spread. This is not modern leave no trace, but a practical habit. Old camps invite trouble, animals, strangers, and sickness. Packs are tightened, straps are checked. A last glance measures the horizon and the weather's mood. A close-up holds on a thumb, smoothing a buckle strap into place. Then the camp disappears into the trees. The skill is leaving as quietly as you arrived. The camera drifts to a small garden near a frontier cabin. Later in the century, perhaps the 1850s. It is not wide, but it is disciplined. Rows of beans, a few squashes, corn if the soil allows. These small plots reduce dependence on luck. For many settlers, the frontier became less about wandering and more about holding ground. Skills shifted with that change. Soil, seasons, storage. Root cellars grew common, keeping food cool through summer. A close-up lingers on fingers brushing dirt from a potato. It is plain. It is precious. It is enough for tonight. End with the quiet ritual of evening eating. The fire is lower. The pot is shared. Conversation is minimal, because chewing takes time and energy. The world outside is larger than the light circle around the coals. Food on the frontier is rarely lavish, but it is deeply intentional. It teaches attention, to taste, to warmth, to how the body responds. A close-up holds on steam rising from a tin cup. Someone warms their hands around it, not rushing. The cup's metal is cool at the edges, hot in the center. Small comforts, carefully managed. Now the story settles into daily life skills, navigation, weather, and routine. You stand at dawn on a ridge. The sky is a pale gradient. Wind presses gently against your coat. Below, a valley holds a thin ribbon of smoke from a distant camp. Before GPS, before reliable roads, people learned to carry direction in ordinary cues. The sun's path, moss and shade patterns, the shape of storm clouds, even the way birds move before weather changes. A close-up lingers on a hand lifting a pinch of dust and letting it fall. The wind's direction is read like a sentence. Then the route is adjusted, quietly. The camera shifts to a small pocket compass, brass worn smooth. Compasses existed, of course, but they were only as useful as the person holding them. Magnetic variation could mislead. A compass had to be checked against known landmarks and the feel of the land itself. Frontiersmen often traveled by watersheds and ridgelines because they are harder to lose than a trail. Rivers pull you somewhere, whether you intend it or not. Choosing the right river mattered. A close-up shows the compass needle settling, trembling once, then calming. The hand holding it is steady. Then the gaze lifts to the horizon, confirming the story the needle tells. Move closer to clothing, because clothing is shelter you wear. Wool stays warm even when damp. Linen breathes. Leather blocks wind. Layering is the quiet system, not fashion, function. Moccasins and boots are maintained constantly. Grease keeps water out. Stitching prevents blisters from becoming wounds. A hat is not style. It is shade in sun and warmth in cold. A close-up rests on fingers rubbing rendered fat into leather, working it in until the surface darkens and softens. The smell is earthy and faintly sweet. The boot becomes more than footwear. It becomes a promise. You can keep walking. Now drift into frontier medicine. Not miracles, but habits. Cleanliness when possible. Dry bandages. Boiled water. A small wound is treated early because infection grows quietly. Poultices and teas exist, some helpful, some less so. But the strongest skill is observation. People learn to watch for fever, swelling, weakness. Rest was a tool, not laziness. In many camps, chores were redistributed when someone fell ill, because survival was communal, even when it looked solitary. A close-up shows a cloth being folded into a simple dressing, then tied gently. The knot is firm, but not tight. Care without fuss. The scene shifts to signaling and being found. A lost person on the frontier is not only lost in space, they are lost in time, because daylight ends. So signals mattered. 3 shots, 3 fires, a mirror flash, a patterned smoke in clear weather. On long routes like those used by emigrants and scouts, travelers left subtle markers: blazes on trees, stacked stones, broken branches angled a certain way. Not permanent monuments, just hints. A close-up holds on a knife carving a small blaze into bark, then pausing. The mark is visible but not loud. Enough to guide, not enough to invite trouble. Now enter the skill of listening. At night, sound travels differently. Water seems louder. Leaves crack more sharply. A good camp learns the normal sounds, so unusual ones stand out. Frontiersmen often chose sleep positions and watch patterns with care. Not always from fear, but from practicality. Animals, weather, strangers, and simple accidents. The goal is not tension, it is readiness. A close-up lingers on an ear turned slightly toward the dark, then on a hand tightening a blanket edge against the wind. The body settles, the mind stays calm. Listening becomes a soft form of protection. Move to the craft of tools again. Repair in the field. A rifle misfires. A strap tears. A pot cracks. Fixing these things becomes routine. A small kit, needle, thread, awl, spare flint, a bit of wire, prevents a chain of failures. In diaries of the fur trade era, men write less about drama and more about mending, drying, scraping, tightening. It is the unseen backbone of travel. A close-up shows a flint being set into place, tapped carefully, then tested with a small click. The sound is satisfying in its quiet certainty. A tiny machine, restored. End the chapter with a gentle foreshadow, the season turning. Leaves thin on branches. Night arrives earlier. Breath shows in the air, even at midday. You feel the coming cold long before it arrives fully. Frontier survival skills are most visible when they are almost needed. Extra firewood is gathered. Food is checked. Travel plans become more cautious. People speak a little less, conserving energy. A close-up holds on a hand counting dried meat strips, then tying the bundle with calm efficiency. Not panic, preparation. The wind shifts slightly. The land is saying quietly that winter is on its way. Now we enter a deeper calm, the kind that arrives before a turning point. A wagon camp rests on a broad plain in the mid-1840s. Canvas tops glow softly under a low sky. A few oxen stand with heads down, breath visible. The ground is hard and cold. Here, survival skill becomes pacing. Do not spend all strength in one day. Do not push animals until they fail. Many travelers learned, sometimes too late, that steady progress is safer than heroic speed. A close-up holds on a worn hand rubbing an ox's neck, checking for sores under the yoke. Care extends the journey. Small kindness becomes strategy. The scene shifts to rationing. Supplies are laid out on a blanket. Flour, a small sack of beans, a bit of coffee, maybe dried fruit. A ledger page is marked with charcoal. Someone calculates days, miles, mouths to feed. The pencil scratches lightly. The sound is gentle. Rationing is not starving. It is smoothing the wave. A little less today, so there is enough tomorrow. The best camps keep meals regular, even if small, because regularity keeps thinking clear. A close-up lingers on a measuring cup filled to the same line as yesterday, then poured into a pot. Consistency as comfort. Now move into the quiet art of staying dry in cold rain. A steady drizzle falls. It is not dramatic, it is persistent. Water finds seams, hems, and small failures. The best skill is noticing damp before it becomes chill. A cloak is adjusted to shed water. Bedding is wrapped and raised. Fires are sheltered behind logs. Wet socks are changed before sleep. These actions look small, but they prevent the slow slide into weakness. A close-up holds on fingers wringing a cloth, then laying it near warm stones, not close enough to scorch. Steam rises faintly. A tiny victory in a long day. The camera drifts to a night watch, not tense, just steady. Someone sits near the fire's edge, wrapped in wool. The world beyond the light is wide and quiet. Coyotes call far off, thin and distant. The fire pops softly as sap heats inside wood. The skill here is keeping the fire small and efficient. Coals banked, wind blocked, fuel arranged within reach. A large fire looks comforting, but it consumes tomorrow. A close-up lingers on a stick, nudging coals into a tighter mound, then on a palm held near the warmth. Enough heat, not wasteful. The watch continues, calm and patient. Now consider the skill of choosing when to stop. Many frontier tragedies begin with one extra mile. The light is fading. The path is uncertain. The ground looks tempting, but water lies too near. Or the wind is wrong. Or the valley feels like a cold trap. Experienced travelers learn to stop early when the right place appears. They set camp while hands still work well. Shelter goes up before fingers numb. Wood is gathered before dark. A close-up shows a small mark scratched into a stick. Today's distance, today's choice. Then the stick is tucked away. The decision is made. The mind relaxes. The scene shifts to a river crossing, slow and careful. Water moves with quiet strength. Wagons creak. Ropes tighten. Someone tests depth with a pole, feeling the bottom. The cold bites at the hand through wet wood. The survival skill is humility. Rivers do not care about plans. Travelers learn to ferry loads, lighten wagons, wait for morning, or follow the river to a safer ford. Pride drowned people. Patience saved them. A close-up holds on a knot being tied. Tight, simple, reliable. Then the rope is pulled once, tested, trusted. The crossing begins with calm steps. End this chapter with the first clear hint of the crisis to come. The air turns still. Clouds build in a smooth, pale wall. The temperature drops without drama, as if someone has quietly opened a door to another season. In camp, small actions intensify. Wood is gathered quickly, bedding is checked, food is moved closer, protected. Someone tightens a guy line on a tent and knots it twice. A close-up holds on the knot, simple, firm, final. Then the hand pauses, listening. In the distance, wind begins to rise, not yet loud but steady. The frontier is preparing its test. The turning point arrives calmly, like weather often does. Snow begins in the late autumn of 1846 in the Sierra Nevada. Light flakes at first, then a thicker curtain. Trees lose detail in the whiteness. Sound becomes muffled, as if the world has been wrapped in cloth. For trapped travelers, survival skills stop being general knowledge and become immediate tools. Shelter must be reinforced. Fire must be kept alive. Food must be stretched. Morale must be protected without speeches. A close-up shows a hand knocking snow from a branch above a roofline, then packing it against gaps as insulation. Cold is managed, not defeated. The storm continues, quiet and endless. Inside a rough cabin, the air is dim and smoky. A small fire burns low, guarded like a heartbeat. People sit close, conserving warmth. Wool and hide trap heat. Breath fogs near faces. The floor is hard, but boughs and blankets soften it. The skill here is routine under pressure. Melt snow for water. Dry socks near stones. Rotate watch for the fire. Keep tools in the same place. In disaster, order becomes comfort. A close-up lingers on a tin cup being filled with melted snow, then handed carefully to someone else. The cup is warm. The gesture is warmer. Quiet care keeps the group human. Now step outside into the white world. The wind stings the cheeks. Footprints fill quickly. The landscape offers no easy direction. In such conditions, getting lost is not drama. It is a few wrong steps. Frontiersmen used navigation tricks, staying near a tree line, following a creek, counting paces, marking return paths. Some parties in 1846, 1847 tried to cross the mountains on improvised snowshoes. The cold and distance were relentless. A close-up shows a strip of cloth tied to a branch, small, fluttering, visible in white. A marker to come back to, a promise against confusion. Food becomes the quiet center of every thought. In winter isolation, skills of preservation and rationing are pushed to their limit. Small portions are measured carefully. Anything edible is considered. Hides softened in water. Bits of tallow saved from earlier days. Whatever can be made safe. This is not told here with shock, only with calm truth. The Donner Party's winter became one of the most painful episodes in American westward migration. Starvation narrowed choices until choices barely existed. A close-up lingers on a knife scraping a thin layer from a hide, then on a pot lid settling back into place. Steam rises faintly. The room is silent, except for the fire. Relief efforts begin with the slow work of people and distance. In early 1847, rescue parties moved toward the trapped families, traveling through deep snow with pack animals and improvised gear. The wind cut across open slopes, Faces were wrapped in cloth. Progress was measured in yards. Their own survival skills mattered too. Reading snow conditions, finding sheltered camps, keeping hands functional in cold. When rescuers reached the cabins, they found exhaustion, confusion, and fragile hope. A close-up holds on a rescuer's mittened hand offering a small piece of bread. The bread is plain. The act is enormous. Eyes lift. The human world returns, one careful gesture at a time. Now let the camera widen, gently, to the bigger picture. The frontier era produced legends, but it also produced lessons. The Donner disaster became a warning that spread by newspapers and word of mouth. It shaped decisions for later immigrants. Leave earlier, take known routes, respect mountains, carry more food, learn winter skills before you need them. Across the late 1800s, travel improved. Roads formed, rail lines cut through distance. Some survival skills became less common, then nearly invisible. A close-up lingers on a worn journal page, ink faded at the edges. A line is underlined once, carefully. Do not delay. The paper rustles softly as it's closed. The scene shifts to the later memory of frontiersmen, buckskins, rifles, wide horizons, often simplified into a single image. But the real craft was quieter, boiling water, mending shoes, keeping a fire alive in rain, choosing dry ground, measuring food, marking a return path. In museums and archives, objects remain. A flint striker, a patched coat, a small compass, a cooking pot blackened by years of use. They are not glamorous. They are honest. A close-up holds on a repaired seam, stitches uneven but strong. The fabric has lived. It has been saved again and again. The skill is visible in the thread. Finally, step back to see the arc clearly. People moved into wide spaces carrying dreams and practical knowledge. They learned from indigenous teachers, from older settlers, from hard seasons, and from each other. Their survival skills were a language spoken in actions. Tighten, dry, ration, mark, repair, wait. The frontier could be beautiful, but it did not forgive carelessness. The turning points, storms, hunger, distance, revealed which habits mattered most. A close-up lingers on a small coal in ash, still glowing. It is nearly nothing, yet it can restart warmth, light, and life. And so, quietly, it becomes a symbol of the whole story. Let your thoughts drift now through the small, steady skills you've seen. A campsite chosen on dry ground. A fire laid in careful layers. A cup of water filtered and boiled. A stitch pulled tight through leather. A knot tested once, then trusted. These are not dramatic scenes, but they carry weight. Imagine the frontier at night. Wind moving through trees. A low fire glowing. A pot resting near coals. Somewhere, a journal closes with a soft thump. Someone adjusts a blanket edge to keep out the draft. The world outside remains wide. Inside the circle of warmth, life holds steady, one quiet habit at a time. Return now to your own room, to the familiar darkness around you. The sounds are gentle and ordinary. Maybe a distant heater hum, a soft, settling creak, or simply your breathing moving in and out like slow tide. The frontier can fade back into history, leaving only its calm lessons behind. Prepare without panic, move steadily, care for small things, and rest when you can. Those old skills were, in their own way, a kind of peace. Let your shoulders soften, let your thoughts quiet. You are safe, warm, and still. The night can hold you now, easily, as sleep arrives.